Time is against us. We've got to move on. We've got to talk about Chelsea, because this is a really interesting story. Jack, your take on this in the Sunday Express, who say Enzo's having a mare at the bridge. And let me just tell you more, give you these quotes from Enzo Maresca, which wasn't in a one-to-one interview after the victory yesterday at Stamford Bridge against Everton, but in his press conference. And towards the end of his press conference, when he was asked about a Malo Gusto question, he says, since I joined the club, the last 48 hours have been the worst 48 hours since I joined, because many people didn't support us. It's an extraordinary outburst, and I think journalists in the room at Stamford Bridge were trying to figure out who he was talking about. What's your take on this?
If I was there as a journalist, I would probably, they fairly routine home 2-0 win. You're probably thinking, the press conference will be, wasn't it great to get back to winning ways? You write it up, you go home, and then you watch a film or watch Match of the Day. And then all of a sudden, Enzo Maresca just kind of lights a firework in the press conference and comes out with this stuff, which I think was completely out of, he volunteered this. This was not in response to a question about, how do you feel like you've had a difficult week? And it's amazing, really, that he would choose this moment to say this. I mean, obviously, he would not have said, no manager would say anything like this unless they were trying to make a very, very particular political point. What that point is, I don't know. I don't know if you guys have got any bright ideas. I think we can all, I believe in the course of the press conference, he was asked, do you mean the fans? And he said, no, Chelsea have had a little bit of a wobble recently. They hadn't won for a few weeks. They lost to Atalanta in the Champions League last Tuesday. Maybe it was to do with the criticism he got about that or his team selection. But it seems to me like he's trying to make a political point, presumably to do with the club itself.
I think that's the obvious assumption to make, and it fits a recent theme, and we've discussed Salah of players and managers talking in deliberately vague terms to make points sort of behind the scenes and sort of use the public as a way of sort of weaponising it and kind of adding to their own agenda, really. I think it's very interesting that he's done this, and it does sort of speak, I think, to an element of dissatisfaction behind the scenes, surely, because he said it's not the fans. So if it's not the fans, therefore it must be the club, either the players in the squad or above him. And maybe we're reading too much into this, and that's partly our jobs, but he didn't wear the club tracksuit yesterday on the touchline, which sounds silly, and I can see you're laughing at me, Will, but he normally does. And I think if someone who's deliberately wanted to make a statement and he's to show he's unhappy, that kind of small gesture...
Black turtleneck.
Yeah, just take off the Chelsea badge would be a sort of one way of kind of adding to his point. And I feel sorry for poor Malo Gusto, who had a great game. And the journalists there asking for a nice quote on Gusto's performance, and instead they got that. But yeah, it's certainly interesting. And we know the history of Chelsea, that there's always something behind the scenes going on. It's never too far away from drama. And it feels like Maresca's trying to get ahead of that a bit, which is interesting because obviously the fans aren't completely convinced by Maresca, despite winning 2 trophies, despite the progress they've made. And yeah, it feels like that's definitely one to watch in the coming weeks.
Yeah, I've already started thinking about his payoff and whether his comments in the press conference might negate the fact that he's entitled to a full payoff. Seriously, because the fact that he volunteered it, the fact that he'd been praising the players in the same press conference, saying the players are fantastic and they're wanting to learn and blah, blah, blah. And then he was asked, do you mean the fans? He said, oh, no, the fans are fantastic. So if it's not the players and it's not the fans, and we know traditionally how tricky the hierarchy can be. You see Tuchel, very good manager, issues there. It's a complicated club, isn't it? They have extremely high expectations. They've spent an absolute fortune on very, very young players, which tactically for the future looks great. But for the manager now, he's expected to win. And he did win 2 trophies, the Conference League and, of course, then the Club World Cup. So he's sort of coming into the season, you could say, at level par, even though it was his first season without a huge amount of managerial experience as number one behind him. He's clearly not happy, but the fact that he's effectively thrown the hierarchy under the bus, as the common parlance after the Salah chat, means, and it's come completely out of nowhere. As you say, the journalist was asking about a Malo Gusto assist, which was just a nice, pleasant question. He probably had his film in mind that he was going to go home and watch last night. And then this all blew up. So this is not going to go away quickly. Clearly was calculated, and it came after a victory. So it wasn't in the kind of, we've all seen post-match press conferences and interviews afterwards, and managers exploded because of something that's happened, a last-minute own goal, like at the Emirates, for example. It wasn't that. It was something he wanted to get off his chest, that he's fuming about, and he wants everybody else to know about. So buy a newspaper, watch this space.
There might be a few more journos at the press conference for the Cardiff League Cup game, that is for sure, than there was going to be. Chelsea not in the title race, Jack?
Well, I thought they might have been. Just going back a few weeks, that 1-1 draw they got with Arsenal when they were down to 10 men, I thought they were so good in that game. I thought that they'd obviously just come off the back of beating Barcelona at home. They really looked like a Chelsea team. They were incredibly physical. They were really competitive. I thought they continued to be a threat even when they had the man sent off. And at that point, I thought, actually, maybe if Arsenal have a bit of a wobble, maybe if I don't know, if Haaland gets injured and City can't maintain this form, then I could see them there. Because I think it could be a winnable title this season. Because I don't think Arsenal will get into the 90s in terms of points, but after the last weeks, probably not actually for Chelsea.
Well, the good news, obviously, for them is Cole Palmer came back. Missed pretty much the whole season, and he looked in great form, scored a lovely goal. And Maresca's always been so clear saying that Palmer's our best player, which is quite rare for a manager to do. Most managers don't try and put one player on a pedestal like that, but he's always been clear about Palmer, and I think that hopefully for Chelsea's perspective, that will kind of build some momentum again after a wobbly few weeks.
Still got 40 minutes or so left of Sunday supplement. We'll let the gang tuck into a little pastry, after which we will have some more tasty stories for you, including this in the Star. Hogwarts United told signed 3 Lions star Adam at all cost. That's by their former coach, Rennie Moulenstein. Second hour on the way for you right now. So much to talk about this morning, including today's Wear Tyne derby, which kicks off later this afternoon. We're going to be talking about the championship, and our guest this morning, sports broadcaster and commentator Jackie Oatley, Sam Dean.
Reaction across the football world has been intense after Enzo Maresca endured what many are calling his worst 48 hours as Chelsea head coach, with damaging results and off-field pressure combining to spark serious concern at Stamford Bridge. A costly setback has effectively pushed Chelsea out of the Premier League title race, leaving fans and pundits questioning key tactical decisions, squad balance, and whether the team has the mentality to respond under pressure. Despite the growing criticism, sources close to the club insist Chelsea's hierarchy remains calm and fully aware that this is a long-term project under Maresca. While the immediate fallout has been painful and expectations have taken a hit, the coming weeks are now seen as decisive for restoring confidence, stabilizing performances, and proving that Chelsea's season is not yet defined by this turbulent moment.